Hey everyone, Andre here along with Nick, aka Steph Tendo. How are you doing today, Nick?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this Pokémon Presents, which we know nothing about, which is this Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday at 6 a.m. Pacific time, I believe, which is pretty early, but they often are. So I know you're a huge Pokemon fan, Nick. So how excited are you right now, despite the fact you know nothing about it?
I don't think I can even put a number on, not because I'm like super excited, just because I have no idea what we're going to see. Besides Pokemon ZA, that's the only thing we know of.
What's your gut telling you right now, though? Are you feeling excited, or are you like, it's happening? You know?
I'm more so in the, it's happening because
Right.
we know that the Switch 2 is on the horizon. We know that the direct for that is only a few weeks away, so I think I'm more excited for that. I just want to get this out of the way so we can get closer to that.
The timing is a little awkward, right? Because I suppose that would mean we're not seeing anything about Switch 2 here. Do you agree, or...?
I don't think anything's Switch 2, which is unfortunate because based off how the previous Pokemon games have played on the Switch, we need more horsepower. We need these games to run a little bit better. So it would be great if we could see ZA running on the Switch 2, but I highly doubt it's going to be here. I highly doubt that that's going to be the first game that they want to show on that actual hardware.
Yeah, you're probably right. They probably don't want to make a Pokemon game the first major blowout game, unless it somehow unless a miracle happens, ends up being running amazing on the system. In any case, I guess we kind of already dived into it, but we'll be talking about our hopes and predictions here. But I think the one expectation that probably most people are having is that we will be seeing Pokemon Legends ZA here in some fashion, right? Because we saw was it over a year ago at this point now? Like that brief trailer?
I think it was exactly a year ago that we saw the trailer, just like Pikachu running around. I believe it's Lumino City, which is from Pokemon X and Y.
Right. And we saw no actual gameplay. It was like a wireframe city too, so some kind of weird visuals. So what are you expecting here? Are you expecting a complete blowout or just a trailer? How much are we going to learn about ZA here, you think? And what of it?
Yeah, so the only thing that Nintendo has confirmed that it's coming out this year, and besides that trailer from a year ago. So I'm hoping that we actually get a blowout. I hope we get more than just like a 3-minute trailer. But going on how Pokemon Presents actually work in the past, I think we're just going to get that 3-minute trailer and call it a day.
And it's going to be the very last thing we see, probably, right? Yeah.
I think it's going to be, here's your one last thing. It's going to be Pokemon ZA. We might see, like, the character running around in the city. And that brings up a good point, because if you played Pokemon Legends, like the previous one, it was out in an open area. It was kind of open zone-ish, like Sonic Frontiers. Like, you just go into an area, you run around, catch Pokemon. But what we've seen so far of this, it seems like it might be stuck within a city, which I don't know is how well it's going to work for a Pokemon Legends game when you're supposed to be running around catching Pokemon constantly.
It's a secret Pokemon, a Detective Pikachu spin-off.
No!
I mean, I would be afraid. I would be surprised if you're confined to the city. I would expect that acts as maybe the hub that then branches off into other areas. I would think, kind of in the vein of the previous game, because you had that city as a hub, right? And then you would travel to other regions. Yeah. So I'd probably expect something similar here. But yeah, so what are you kind of expecting from this game, though? Like, is it going to be like is it going to iterate on the gameplay we saw in Legends? That more open gameplay, more I guess, more natural battles to a degree, or at least encounters, I suppose.
Yeah, so I only got maybe 5 or 10 hours into Legends ZA, or not Legends ZA, Legends Arceus, which was the previous one, because I mostly watched my girlfriend play all the way through. But when I watched her play, I was kind of, or at least when I played, I was a little upset by like the boss battles, because they don't have traditional gyms in that game. Instead, you would go and fight this like larger than life Pokemon, and it was kind of weird because you would like throw sandbags at them, and then you go into the battle. It was really bizarre how they handled it for each one. So I hope they kind of change that mechanic a little. Like, they don't have to go back into gym leaders, because I like how it was a little different from the mainline Pokemon games. I do expect us to see Mega Evolutions, because in Pokemon X and Y, that's when Mega Evolutions were first introduced. So I think we're going to see what the Mega Evolutions look like for some of these newer Pokemon.
That's a good one, yeah. I think those are some good thoughts. For myself, I liked the overall idea of Legends. I enjoyed it during my stream, but I didn't enjoy it enough to play it anymore after. But, I liked it. I'm like, okay, this is a cool direction. I would love to see them go even more in that more kind of off the wall direction, or not maybe off the wall, but more, you know, naturalistic or more organic, I suppose, especially with it being a city now, so it's not less about nature, it seems, possibly. But what more of my point is not the setting, it's how it works. You know, I like being able to encounter, enemies, Pokemon out in the world, and I wish that they would go even more in the direction for the battle system, too. Like, do something different with that. You know, I would love they could make it feel like you're actually, like, you know, a trainer. Like, you're actually, like, you know, giving instructions rather than literally just dictating moment by moment what your Pokemon's doing. I don't know if they're going to do that, probably not, but I think that'd be cool.
That was my biggest issue probably with the overall gameplay, because it is a spin-off game, so it shouldn't be directly tied to the mainline games, like at least to a T, because that's how the battle systems were. It was just like, oh, you throw your Pokemon and then you're giving them direct orders. It's like, no, make it more lively, because we are in this open area and we want it to be a little bit different. Yeah, I don't know if they will change it so much, because I think the last game sold relatively well. Yeah. So I think they're going to stick to their gut and kind of keep it like the traditional battle system.
Like, I think it'd be so cool if, like, your Pokemon had some degree of autonomy, right? Like,
of course.
Especially based on how good of a trainer you are. Like, maybe your bond grows better over time. I mean, they've loosely dabbled this in the past, where Pokemon would just straight up ignore you if they, you know, if you weren't a high enough level. But I think there's a lot of gray area in that type of system where you can make it really interesting, where it feels like your bond is actually growing with those Pokemon, and they listen to you more. And even then, and even when they do listen to you, you know, consistently, they're still kind of like doing their own thing at the same time, right? But in any case, I'm not expecting it, so I don't want to get too off into the weeds about it. Anything else about Pokemon ZA that you're expecting or hoping that we see? Will we learn what ZA actually means?
we have no idea. Yeah. I think it's based off of the legendary from Pokemon X and Y. What is it?
That's right, the shapes,
I believe.
Yeah.
But this game is coming out after Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and one thing I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet did pretty well was that everything, at least your TMs so-called, were tied to Miraidon and Koraidon, the main legendaries of those games. So like, they would fly, they would go into the water, they would break boulders. So like I said, they kind of acted as your TM, which I think they can improve on in Legends, because in the previous Legends, you had a Pokemon for each specific role. So it's like, oh, if you want to go running, you had to throw out, I don't even know what the deer was. I can't think of it. Stantler or something like that. But if you wanted to fly, you needed like Bravery, and you had to switch between them. If you wanted to surf, you needed a Gyarados. But like I said, how Scarlet and Violet kind of iterated on that was everything was tied to that one specific Pokemon. So I'm not sure how they could do it in this, because Koraidon and Miraidon are so inherently tied to the story of Scarlet and Violet. I'm hoping that they can find a workaround instead of like you toggling between all these different Pokemon to do all these actions.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because it did seem like we saw some influence from Legends into the mainline games, and now we have the chance for that to come back again, right? And see how this iterates on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think they'll go that in depth in the trailer? Do you think they'll show off like things like that, or?
I don't have high hopes. I don't think so. Yeah. I think we'll get lucky if we even get like the battle system shown off. But I actually had another good point, like going based off of, since this is coming out after Scarlet and Violet, one of my biggest concerns with Scarlet and Violet was it's an open world game, and you can kind of choose which gym leader you want to go to, but the game didn't scale with your playstyle. So when I played it for my first time, I was like, oh, let me just kind of go how I want to go. Because I know obviously there's like a Gym 1, a Gym 2 that you're supposed to fight in a specific order. So I hope this game might iterate on that with the open world aspect. And if it does, I hope the Pokemon actually scale to your level. So it's not like you're just walking over, this is a level 1 Pokemon, or let me fight like the last gym leader, but all the Pokemon are level 50 or 60. It's like, oh, I know I shouldn't be here, but I kind of ventured out on my own, and I wanted to discover this area, but the game's still telling me, wait a minute, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I guess it kind of depends, because if they stick to how Legends already worked, then you kind of have that almost innately in there a little bit, because you unlock the regions in order, right? As I recall.
Do, correct.
Yeah, kind of like the zone gameplays you mentioned of Sonic, Sonic Frontiers. So yeah, I guess it kind of depends on how much they change that. If they're just going for like one big open world where you can go anywhere, then yeah, I agree. But that seemed to be a main complaint in the mainline games, where it didn't scale, and that kind of ended up forcing you down a linear path anyway. Which is kind of antithetical to how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
It's like, they still wanted to play how traditional Pokemon games played, but it's like, no, go out anywhere, do anything you want. It's like, do you really want me to do that? Or are you just like, it's kind of like an imagination. It's like, it's false hope, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's so interesting that they have this like kind of adjacent spin-off series that is different, but also not like completely different from the mainline games. And it'll be interesting to see how they iterate on that. So like I said, I'm kind of hoping, that they, do more unique stuff for this one, since they have the avenue and they know they can do it now without it, seemingly affecting the mainline games, if not in a good way, perhaps.
Yeah.
It certainly didn't hurt the brand at all. Anything else about Legends before we move on?
So, I did say previously new Pokemon. I should say we're not going to get, like, new Pokemon for this game, but we will
That's
get
a mainline thing,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's a mainline thing. We won't get new Pokemon, but we will get new Pokemon variants of that region. Yep. Because Legends did have that. They had variants for the Pokemon in... I don't remember the name of the region that we were in that game, but we will have region-specific Pokemon in this game. And then also the Mega Evolutions, which was probably the best gimmick mechanic in all the Pokemon games. I loved it more than Terraforming. I loved it more than the giant Pokemon. They're just big now. Yeah. It's definitely the best one because it gives a most unique design for the Pokemon. It feels like a fourth evolution for them, and it was just a fun gameplay mechanic. Like you have to be very strategic on which Pokemon that you actually want to Mega Evolve, because you can only do it to one.
Right, that's a good one. You have to think about it, and I always like games that make you, that give you like a kind of risk versus reward type thing. It's like, am I making the right choice here? That'd be cool. So, I guess we'll see in that probably 3-minute at best trailer, but maybe they'll surprise us and have a full blowout. I guess final question. I know we touched on Switch 2 already briefly. Is there any chance there's a mention of it here at all? Like, whether it's confirming it runs on Switch 2 or it'll have enhancements on Switch 2 or anything? Do you think?
I want to say it's zero hope, because I think Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are specifically talking to each other and saying, hey, we're gonna save everything for the Switch 2 event. We don't want anyone else, even third parties, I think have to be like close tight about it if they can announce their game for Switch 2, because third parties, again, the Pokemon Company with the Pokemon Presents this Thursday, I think Nintendo wants to hold all the announcements for the Switch 2.
I think you're right. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on then, past ZA. What else are you hoping or expecting from this Pokemon Presents?
Yeah, so I'll get more of the obvious stuff out of the way, being the mobile games, because they love talking about the mobile games, and we will get... They usually talk about them for the first maybe 5 minutes or so, because after you watch it, you start to realize how many mobile games there are for Pokemon. I always forget about it.
I always tune out during that segment. Like, I feel like I've seen that. I can already picture in my head. I know exactly what it's going to look like. We've seen it so many freaking times now.
It's going to start with Pokemon EX. Yeah. And I'm going to be like, this game's still going on. It's going to be like Pokemon Cafe, Pokemon Unite with a new Pokemon or two, which I play every once in a while, Pokemon Unite. But I think the big hitter for the mobile games is going to be Pokemon TCG Pocket, because that just came out in October, and that's been doing really, really well. So I think they're probably going to announce a new expansion, maybe an overhaul to training, because I know they did come out with a tweet addressing that we hear the community's concerns, because I don't know if you ever played TCG Pocket, but there was an issue with trading. I think there still is. When you trade with someone, you have to trade of like the equivalent value of the card.
I heard something about that, yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you have to use trade tokens. So it's not something you can constantly do. So like they monitor it very tightly. So I hope they kind of change that a bit for the community's sake, because if it's like the traditional Pokemon card games, like we can just go out and I can give you a card, you can give me a card. Why do they need to be this many restrictions on it? So
Big brother, big Pokemon's watching.
Exactly. It's like, I just wanted to change like a Charmander for a Charizard. No, you can't do that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wonder if they would get it. I kind of feel like that's something that they wouldn't probably dedicate, that kind of change to in this Presents. I could be wrong, but I'm sure you're right. They will touch on the game to some degree. But it seems like it's a huge success, and I've still been meaning to find time to play around with it myself at some point. And I'm missing out on the daily boosters or whatever it is you get, right?
Yeah. They did change that, I believe, because it used to be you got 2 boosters a day, but they were set on they're still set on a timer. But if you opened one up at like maybe 8 o'clock, you couldn't open up the next one until maybe 9 o'clock at night. But they did change that you can open them both up at the same time, which was super nice, because like if I'm opening them up, I just want to open them up like first thing in the morning. I don't want to have to check in another time throughout the day.
You don't want your Pokemon breakfast and dinner?
Your big breakfast? Yeah, Munchlax in the morning and then Snorlax at night.
How about anything else? Like, are you expecting or hoping for any surprises here beyond what we do know already, or are you gonna think it's going to be laying out what we already know just in more detail?
I'm hoping for another spin-off game. I don't think we're going to get a mainline game this year. I don't believe.
No, I think
I could be wrong. It could be a Switch 1 exclusive coming out in like November, October when they usually come out.
They did that for the first Legends, right? Didn't we have Legends at the beginning of the year?
Well,
and
that was the crazy thing.
That was so weird.
That timeline, it was... What was that? What year was that? 2023, I believe?
That recent? I think maybe 2022. Maybe it was 2022. I don't know.
It might have been 2022. Because the year before that, it was the Diamond and Pearl remakes, which came out, I think, 3 or 4 months before Legends.
Yeah.
And then, 9 months later came Scarlet and Violet? It was 3 games packed within a year, basically.
That's crazy.
And I think at that point, I think a lot of the community was like, whoa, slow down, Pokemon Company. Like, we don't need to consume this many games this fast. Like, take your time, produce the games, make them higher quality. So, again, if we get a spin-off this year besides Pokemon ZA, I hope it's something more like a Pokken tournament, or maybe a Pokemon Warriors game, because I'm just on a Warriors high right now. So if we can get any of those two, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I just wonder if that would be on Switch 1, or that's something they would hold off until Switch 2. I guess it maybe depends. But we do know that at the least, if it comes from Game Freak at the least, that they have no problem supporting older hardware, especially when you have a massive demographic as big as the Switch. I still think it'd be dumb just to turn off that faucet. They want games too, and that's
and when it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. They'll buy Pokemon. I mean, I don't think 3-year-olds are especially discerning when it comes to the graphical fidelity, right? So
they just want to see the thing move. That's it.
As long as it yells Pikachu every now and then, that's all that matters.
But yeah, speaking of what else we could see in this presentation, I know there's been rumors and speculation about the older games being like Gen 1, 2, and 3 coming back to NSO or in some sort of fashion. But if you look back maybe 10 years ago, 2015, 2016, that's the last time we got the original Pokemon games on 3DS, on the eShop.
Wow.
So it's been nearly a decade since these things been released, and I think people are clamoring for them in some sort of fashion. So whether it be like a collection, them adding them to NSO, and I actually had an idea, if they add them to NSO, this can also give them a reason, maybe later down the line, to like kind of increase the pricing, because that could happen with Switch 2.
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh man, yeah, people won't love that element. But so in that case, I mean, they wouldn't be here, obviously. So do you think now's the time, though? I know people have been like, talking about this for a long, people have been wanting the originals back for forever. So do you think now could be that time, or do you think it's they'll hold off, as you're kind of suggesting they could for Switch 2?
I think there's a chance.
Not necessarily Switch 2, but in the future.
But I think there's a chance that we could see them here. Granted, people were saying maybe it's 1 through 3. I think they're going to drip feed them, because we've seen Nintendo do this all the time. I think it would probably just be red, blue, and yellow, maybe. And on top of that, what was I just thinking? Like I said, like the eShop, right? The Wii U and 3DS eShop closed. How long ago did it close? Was it a year ago? Was that just the online service?
Yeah, I mean, so you can't buy games there anymore, but you can still download the ones you own. Yeah, and it was at least a year ago. Yeah.
At least a year ago. So there's no way to play the original red, blue, and yellow anymore. So I mean, I think giving a year out, I think this might be a good time to actually re-release those again.
It'd be really cool, and this is probably something that won't happen. So I'm just wasting.
You say cool with Pokemon, I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna happen.
No, exactly. But it'd be neat if the reason why it's taking so long is because they're not just gonna dump it on the NSO. Not that I'm opposed to that. I think that'd be fine. But a big part of the game is the social interaction, and that's something that's harder to do, especially with the Switch Online games. Especially with you having to be friends with the people you play with. I think it'd be neat if they could build like a virtual lobby type thing where you can hop into like a game and see like everyone's little 8-bit avatars running around and just like battle random people. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be so much fun. I didn't even think about that before.
Yeah. That's a huge part of it. That's why everyone wanted to get all the Pokemon to fight, So yeah, and that was even then, and even though it was hard to do on the Game Boy because everyone had a link cable, even back then, it happened just often enough that you're like, I want to put all my time into this game, like how Pokemon works these days, of course. But I feel like you'd be losing a huge part of what made those originals classic if you don't have that in some way. And of course, I'm sure they won't, but
yeah. But speaking of that and the other NSO stuff, if we don't get those classic games here, and especially what you were just saying, I think we could get some other NSO Pokemon games, because not all of them are on there. Outside of, obviously, I'm not talking the mainline games, I'm talking spin-offs right now.
Right.
Because we haven't gotten a Pokemon Pinball on either the GBA or just the original Game Boy. And that's something they can easily do. I feel like they've done that in the past at Pokemon Presents, where it's here's Pokemon Puzzle League or something, and it's coming today or something.
I would kill for a modern Pokemon pinball. If they like
Oh,
just
I
made
didn't
a
even
new
think a modern
version
one.
of
You
that,
give us a modern one.
that'd be so good. I would love that. Like you have like the full 3D visuals, like actual like really good physics, and oh man, that'd be addictive. I would love that. So
Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything else? Any other expectations you have for this event?
It's gonna be quick.
Yeah, that's
It's
the
gonna
thing.
yeah.
I mean, they're almost, yeah, it's like, we don't want to get, like, too many predictions or hopes, because they won't happen. Like, we know that for a fact. Like, Nintendo Directs, obviously, no one ever hits 100%. But, like, there's enough time there, and they dedicate enough time to games. It's like, well, in theory, something, a lot of these could happen. Here, it's like, you're lucky if you get one thing. One thing you want, because a lot of it is, like, kind of, like, just, I mean, for lack of a better word, like just marketing, like it's like, here's all the stuff we're doing, that's not game related necessarily, so yeah,
it's
go ahead,
pretty
please.
button up, and like literally button up, because you usually have the heads of the Pokemon companies sitting at the desk with all the Pokemon behind them, and they have their suit and tie on,
Yep.
and they're usually talking to the camera for a good like 2 or 3 minutes. It's like, no, we just want to see the game, show us the game, please. And the amount of gameplay we get for all this stuff is probably less than, like, I guess the overall time we see the people on the screen.
Oh,
like, it is not
probably.
much at all.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So yeah, I think if we get a blowout or even like a 3-minute trailer of ZA, I think we'd be lucky at this point.
Yeah.
So, but hey, if there's more than that, I would be happy.
I would be happy too.
Yeah, that'd be great. So I always like being surprised. So they have something there that we're not expecting at all, or something that aligns with one of our more off the wall ideas. Hey, that'd be great. Modern Pokemon pinball, sign me up.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, no, I just want that. Like, after you said that, I was like, no, I'll take the classic, but a modern one, forget about it. I would totally take that.
Anything, especially like you can, on the Switch, you can go Tate modes. You can have like the full vertical.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So good. It'd be so good. Anything else we need to touch on here, Nick, or any other ideas you have?
I think they're gonna throw in another mobile game. I don't know what it's gonna be, but we've gotten like Pokemon Sleep, EXs, Unites, Pocket, TCG. They have like 4 or 5 going on right now, but just given how the Pokemon company is, I can see them adding maybe a Pokemon racing game. I'm shocked they don't have that for mobile, like bringing back Pokemon Dash on the DS.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, like I feel like they're missing. There's a lot of genres they could go into, but a Pokemon racing game would be amazing. Yeah, that could be like an actual, like, really good one. Pokemon Dash is whatever, but at least they tried. So, yeah, something like that would be cool. I think I kind of miss the era. Like for me, old school fan, playing through like the Game Boy and 64 era. Like it felt like they were really kind of experimental then with the series. You got a lot of like Pokemon Snap, for instance. And I would love something more like that, like something like we didn't expect. That's not a mobile game. I'm sorry, I'm not a huge mobile fan. If it's on mobile, I'm probably not gonna play it. So.
No, I was thinking the same thing the other day. I was like, wait a minute, what genres haven't the Pokemon company gotten into? And I just thought, what about a Pokemon platformer? I don't know what that would look like, but a Pokemon platformer would be. I assume it'd be pretty fun.
Like, it's like, what if you're like, I'm almost picturing like Smash Brothers style, where like you're the trainer, like you don't see the trainer, but you swap out Pokemon on the fly, and that way you can do different challenges or whatever. Even better, you choose your loadout before the stage, like let's say even 3 Pokemon, right? And you swap between them freely as you go through it. So
that's it's like, oh, maybe I pick a flying type like Charizard, or maybe I pick like a speed type like. I just think in Pikachu. Maybe Pikachu can run faster here, but to get up to this higher height, I need to turn into the Charizard because I have to fly up there.
Exactly. Man, I want this now. All these good ideas aren't going to happen, so... Oh, man. All right, anything else, Nick, or is that pretty much everything at this point?
I think that's about it. We're going to watch it, and it's going to be gone in a blink of an eye, so we're going to be... after we're done watching, we're just going to be like, okay, Switch 2 Direct in a few more weeks, so...
Exactly. Well, if you want to watch it along with us in the blink of an eye, hopefully a little bit longer, you can, because we'll be streaming it on Thursday at 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern, or luckily 8 a.m. my time. So thankfully, not 6 a.m. Those were rough, but for you on the West Coast, I'm sorry. So should be a lot of fun, hopefully, or if not, it'll be quick. And Nick and I will be there, so come hang out with us. And otherwise, if you want to keep on top of what Nick does beyond the shorts Nick has made on our channel, Nick, where can people follow you at?
Yeah, so like Andre said, you can check out my shorts here on the channel, but I'm also doing streams on my own channel and other shorts there. My channel is Steftendo, like my last name, Steph, and then Nintendo, Tendo. So like Andre said, shorts here, you can check out my live streams over there, but we'll be also streaming the Pokemon Presents on Thursday, so...
Should be a lot of fun. So come back on Thursday. We'll see you there, everyone. And check the links below if you want to follow Nick on Nick's channel, Steftendo. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll catch you later on Thursday. Bye.